Welcome to the Measure F exam training guide. My name is Jeff Pengelly. This guide is designed to help you prepare you for the other modules of training if they are offered, or this program may constitute the entirety of the Permit Simplicity, also known as Measure F program training guide. There will be a final exam. We'll explain more about that in the slides to follow. The purpose of this guide, the Oxnard Permit Simplicity Act, also referred to as Measure F, requires that a training program be developed by the city of Oxnard as a prerequisite for applicants to submit projects through the Permit Simplicity program, hereafter referred to as the program. The city of Oxnard Community Development Department, also known as the department, will be the administrator of the program. I want to clarify that I'm going to follow very closely the text of the slide so that those who may be hearing impaired will not miss any information. Continuing now, this Measure F training guide is divided into the following chapters: an overview, administrative aspects, examining plans for compliance to city code and other applicable laws, review of other Oxnard plan submittal options, and there is a final brief chapter with some additional follow-up information as well. Chapter 1, the overview of the program details and processes. The Oxnard Permit Simplicity Act, Measure F, it's a result of a voter-approved ballot initiative, and it's now codified in the Oxnard City Code as Chapter 26. This program allows for the issuance of a permit in one business day, provided the following general steps have been satisfied. Please refer to the Oxnard City Code, Chapter 26, for the complete program language. The entirety of the program language will be critical for your successful entry into the program and to utilize the program successfully without any surprises. Item A, project applicants must be continuously licensed and in good standing for the preceding 5 years by the state of California and practicing within their disciplines per program section or per section 2620 of the Oxnard City Code. Please review this code section before submitting a project into the program. You must be licensed with the state of California. There's a variety of licensing categories listed. So please make sure that prerequisite is fulfilled. Item B, qualified applicants must complete Measure F training provided by the city. Again, this video is a significant portion of the training, and it may constitute the entirety of the training, but as new topics emerge and we get more feedback from program applicants, we may provide additional training, either supplemental training, either virtually or electronically or in person. We reserve the right to amend this training as we determine is necessary for the success of the program. And a final exam will be conducted at the conclusion of the training. This is just to verify that the program materials have been reviewed and understood before somebody registers and enters into the program. Item C, applicants who are not licensed architects or engineers must also complete a training program approved by the city or have other certifications as per section 2620, letter C. We've heard some confusion about this topic. Please contact the program administrator if you have any questions. This should not be viewed as in any way inhibiting people from joining the program. It's the language of the program as approved by the voters of the city of Oxnard. We're bound to uphold it, but we will interpret it as favorably as we can and as reasonably as we can to facilitate project applicants. Item D, applicants are required to show evidence of $1 million in professional liability insurance that will be held for 5 years. This is required regardless of the size or scope of the project. Item E, the project must obtain all necessary pre-approvals, which, depending on the project, could include planning permits or entitlements. This could that process could include CEQA compliance, as well as plan check approval from the Oxnard Fire Department, the Planning Department, electrical plan check approval, and any other necessary outside agencies that may need to review the project. Again, this is highly dependent on the size, scope, and nature of the project. Item F, once pre-approvals have been obtained, the final project plans are required to be submitted by the applicant to undergo a third-party structural peer review and receive a final peer review certificate of approval stamped and signed by the structural peer reviewer. The city will provide a list of approved structural engineers who have agreed to serve as peer reviewers. We have not negotiated a price, and we are not going to be involved in that. That is a negotiation that will need to take place between the structural peer review engineering firm and the project applicants. We are just providing a brief list of those who have agreed to participate in the program. I also want to clarify it's not required by the program that the structural peer reviewer acts outside of their scope of licensure. The structural peer review certificate of approval is to be submitted with other pre-approvals, applications, form letters, and other documents that will be required at the time of application. Again, the structural peer reviewer is providing a peer review. They are not providing design services. Item G, the applicant referred to as the Permit Simplicity Certified Professional, abbreviated as PSCP, should then fill out the project application, which will include, among other information, the following attachments: evidence of the pre-approvals as described above. That's per Oxnard City Code Section 26-31A. Proof of insurance per Oxnard City Code 26-31B. Professional of record certification statement per 26-31C, attesting to subparagraphs 1 through 12. All of these code references, by the way, are from Oxnard City Code, if I don't make that clear. An owner or tenant certification statement that is signed by the owner or tenant, and that's per 26-31D. Two different hold harmless letters, one signed and dated by the owner/tenant, and the second one signed by the Permit Simplicity Certified Professional, each of them attesting to items 1 through 4 described in Oxnard City Code Section 26-31E. And there's also a requirement to provide a, quote, reasonable hardship plan, presumptively for ADA and California Building Code accessibility requirements. That term is not well defined in the ballot initiative and thus the city code. We will interpret it as reasonably as we can. It seems to imply ADA and California Building Code accessibility hardship. That's described further in Oxnard City Code section 26-31F. Part H, applications will not be processed until all of the required documents are received and they are verified to be complete. That verification will take place expeditiously. Item I, applications for projects will be screened for meeting all the program requirements. And if the project meets all program requirements, the Permit Simplicity Certified Professional will be notified and a permit will be issued within 1 business day. The permit will be stamped as, quote, Permit Simplicity Certified Project. Item J, if a project does not meet all program requirements, it will be rejected from acceptance into the program. The applicant, the PSCP, may either submit the project through the regular plan check process at that time, or they may appeal the decision that it's incomplete or does not meet program requirements. That appeal can be appealed to a body called the Building Board of Appeals. The Building Board of Appeals is defined in the ballot initiative and thus the Oxnard City Code. This is distinctly different type of appeals board than that defined in the California Building Code called the Board of Appeals. The applicant has 10 days to file an appeal, and the appeal hearing will be conducted within 45 days from the date the appeal was filed. There is no further appeal beyond the Building Board of Appeals or rejection from the program. Item K, projects will be audited. The interpretation is that means plan checked. After the permit has been issued, that's per section 26-40, the department retains the right to audit every project. The audit process, better understood as the plan check process, will take place in the same time frame as the regular plan check process for other projects submitted for permits here at the City of Oxnard. There is no expediting for the auditing of projects submitted into the program. Should code deficiencies be found during the audit process, the audit will be scored according to the quote, Permit Simplicity Certified Program Auditing and Appeal Procedures, which will be posted on the city website. The applicant will be required to correct the plans and resubmit them for a second audit to confirm the corrections have been made. Should the corrective actions fail to resolve the code deficiencies discovered during the audit, a second audit failure may result. The project plans will continue through repetitive audit cycles as necessary to achieve compliance with all adopted codes and other applicable standards. It's important to note that this audit or plan check process in this program is taking place after the permit has been issued. Item M as in Mary, applicants can be suspended from the program for failing project audits or for failing to submit audit corrections by the date required. Applicants can have their program certification permanently revoked for providing false or fraudulent information, for making false statements of material fact, for providing fraudulent signatures, or for failing to submit revisions triggered by a field inspection as described in sections 26-43 and 26-33. Item N as in Nancy, the department retains the right to halt inspections and or issue a stop work notice to projects that have code deficiencies discovered either during the audit process or through field inspections. Item O, adverse audit results and suspension or revocations from the program can be appealed to the Building Board of Appeals if a written request for appeal is received within 10 days of the date the notice was mailed to the applicant. The appeals hearing will be scheduled within 45 days of receipt of the request for the appeal. The Building Board of Appeals function is solely to determine whether the audit results or the suspension or revocation actions from the program is warranted. The Building Board of Appeals has no authority to rule on code interpretations or other matters outside the scope of the program. Currently, the request for an appeal to the Building Board of Appeals will require the payment of an appeals fee that is currently $214.83. The city reserves the right to adjust that for additional cost, inflationary increases in cost incurred by the city. Item P, the Permit Simplicity Certified Professional may further appeal an adverse ruling of the Building Board of Appeals to the City Council, specifically for decisions regarding adverse audit results and suspension or revocations from the program. The request for an appeal to the City Council must be received within 15 days of mailing of the notice of the Building Board of Appeals decision, and will require the payment of an appeals fee currently set at $1,921.50. That is the current schedule of fees for that appeal. We reserve the right to adjust it as our city's costs increase with inflationary adjustments. The scheduling of the appeal to the city council will be dependent upon the city council meeting schedule and availability, but scheduling of that appeals hearing will not be unreasonably delayed. Item Q, voluntary field revisions that are initiated by the applicant after the permit has been issued shall follow the same process outlined above, except that the PSCP eligibility criteria in general do not need to be reestablished. Item R, mandatory field revisions initiated by an inspector due to code violations observed or deficiency in the plans shall follow this following process. The inspection supervisor shall confirm the deficiencies, and if confirmed, the PSCP shall be notified in writing, and the program language just say that email is sufficient. The PSCP shall submit corrected plans or otherwise take the necessary actions to resolve the situation. The revised plans will be plan checked in the regular plan check process. They will not be expedited. Failure by the Permit Simplicity certified professional to take corrective action in a reasonable period of time will result in the revocation of the PSCP's certification in the program. The inspection supervisor shall score the violations, and a score of 5 or greater will result in a mandatory audit. All of this language is straight from the ballot initiative approved by the voters and now in the Oxnard City Code as indicated. On to Chapter 2, administrative aspects of the certified profession that the certified professional is responsible for. This section covers some of the administrative aspects of Measure F, Permit Simplicity, that the Permit Simplicity certified professional is responsible for. Item A, the Measure F program is a type of self-certification program that relies on the competence and due diligence of the Permit Simplicity certified professional. Once all necessary pre-approvals and paperwork have been submitted, the plans submitted to this program are to be issued a permit within 1 business day. That means the normal plan review process has not occurred. This aspect of the program necessitates that the plans and supporting documentation be 100% compliant with all applicable codes upon first submittal. All projects are subject to an audit after the permit is issued. Again, that audit is the plan check process. There is a scoring system different than the normal plan check process, but the function is the same. And that is to verify that all applicable codes and standards are met. If code deficiencies are discovered during the audit, the PSCP may be suspended from the program, project inspections may be halted, or a full work stoppage notice issued. And that just depends on the nature of the discrepancies found during the audit. If, for an example, a project submitted to the program requires 2 to 3 rounds of audit or plan check corrections before being approved, per the language of the program, the PSCP would be suspended from the program due to multiple audit failures, and project delays would likely occur. The number of audit failures are cumulative within each individual Permit Simplicity certified professional. They are not reset with each new project submitted to the program. Therefore, again, it is critical that the PSCP ensures the plans and supporting documentation are 100% compliant with all applicable codes and standards. The program itself mandates the following actions for each audit failure. A single audit failure will result in either a temporary suspension or a written warning. A second audit failure can result in mandatory auditing for the following 12 months, in addition to a temporary suspension. A third audit failure will result in a 12-month suspension from the program. And a fourth audit failure will result in revocation of the Permit Simplicity certified professional the revocation of their certification for 3 years. Item B, the project scope. The scope of projects that can be submitted to the program is not limited. However, projects involving work that has commenced without permits are not eligible to use the program. Item C, the eligibility criteria for participation in the program can be found in Oxnard City Code Section 26-20. Registration or licensure with the state of California is a general requirement, and that license or registration must be in good standing, both at the time of application and continuously held for the previous 5 years. Section 2620 lists several license categories eligible to apply for the program. This includes architects, civil engineers, contractors, certified interior designers, mechanical and electrical engineers, geotechnical engineers, etc. Please refer to section 2620 for the exact language. Although several categories of state licensure are indicated or listed in 2620, this does not preclude state laws that govern the practice of architecture and engineering from limiting the type of project or the scope of work that a given license category can take responsibility for. As an example, a licensed electrical engineer cannot generally prepare plans for civil engineering, architectural, structural, mechanical, or other disciplines. Similarly, a licensed contractor generally cannot prepare plans or cause plans to be prepared under their supervision for multiple specialty trades that they do not hold a contractor's specialty license for. Project plans submitted to the program must be complete and contain all disciplines necessary to construct the project, and the PSCP must stamp and sign all plan sheets, including all disciplines. This is per the language of the program. So an architect, for example, cannot just stamp and sign the architectural sheets as the Permit Simplicity Certified Professional. There is one Permit Simplicity Certified Professional for each project. Therefore, that PSCP must stamp and sign all plan sheets. Item D, a project application and submittal checklist will be available at the city website. Please review sections 26-31 and 26-32 for a complete listing of all the requirements. Item E, please review the insurance requirements mandated by the program in 26-31B. As mentioned in Chapter 1, professional liability insurance is required, and there are also specific insured amounts, company ratings, endorsements, and other details in this section that need to be met. Among the requirements is a stipulation that the insurance be held for 5 years after the project is completed, and that the insurance coverage cannot be canceled, except after a minimum 30 days notice is provided to the city. However, if that insurance is canceled, if the insurance coverage fails to be maintained as required by the program for 5 years, the department may revoke the PSCP's certification, and we may also revoke the permit for the projects pending by that same PSCP. Item F, for all PSCPs registered in the program, they will need to undergo additional training with each new building code cycle to maintain their registration status. This training is not provided by the city according to the text of the ordinance and the ballot initiative. Please coordinate with the building official before participating in any training for this purpose to confirm it will satisfy this program requirement. There are a variety of organizations that provide code training. So if you're in that position where you're registered in the program and every 3 years the codes change, you need to update, please just check with the program administrator to confirm before you pay for and take a training to confirm it meets the requirements. Item G, it's strongly recommended that all potential applicants contact the department well in advance of a project submittal. to review the program requirements and determine all the necessary prerequisite approvals. These prerequisite approvals are just entirely dependent on the nature, size, scope, location of the project. The application process itself will generally take place in 5 steps. First, the PSCP applies for and completes the Measure F training. Second, the PSCP coordinates a specific project submittal in advance with the department and begins gathering the necessary forms, letters, and other documents. Please refer to sections 2631 and 2634 for more information on that process. Item 3, planning permits / entitlements, if required, will need to be obtained through the standard process with the city. Contact the planning division staff for details on this process. We cannot put a list of every requirement or every type of project that would require entitlements. It's based on the Oxnard city code. It's based on the general plan, specifically the zoning code as well. So just contact the planning division staff for more details on your specific project. Item 4, once planning and permits and entitlements are obtained, the project construction drawings and supporting documentation are to be submitted for the prerequisite plan check approval by the fire department, the planning division, and the electrical plan check division. In many cases, civil improvement plans, if they are required, will need to be submitted through the standard process for approval at that time as well. Encroachment and grading permits will need to be issued. The grading completed and building pad certifications obtained during this step. And item 5, the applicant sets an appointment with the department for the final submittal of the plans, the supporting documentation, all other necessary forms, letters, etc. If all programs requirements are met, including the necessary pre-approvals, the applicant will be notified and a permit will be issued within 1 business day. Chapter 3, examining plans for compliance to city code and other applicable laws. This section covers the topic of examining plans, applicable codes, and common plan areas. Item A, the city of Oxnard is required by state law, adopts and enforces the California Building Standards Code, currently the 2022 edition. As allowed by state law, the city has made amendments to the CBSC based on specific local findings. The CBSC can be found online at the Building Standards Commission website listed here. The City of Oxnard amendments to the CBSC can be found in Chapter 14 of the Oxnard City Code. The Oxnard City Code can be found on the city's website under Departments, City Clerk, and Resources. Item B, disabled access regulations are found in the CBSC under Chapters 11A and 11B. For housing, public accommodations, and commercial buildings. As a reminder, local cities do not enforce federal ADA regulations, but projects are still obligated to follow them. Similarly, the City of Oxnard does not enforce the Fair Housing Act. The CBSC disabled access provisions are at least as stringent as the federal standards, but there are differences in a few areas. The CBSC provisions should be applied in all cases for projects submitted to the City of Oxnard. Item C, the details of the applicable codes are beyond the scope of this training session. It is the responsibility of the applicant to be familiar with all applicable codes found in Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations, including, but not limited to, the building code, the residential code, the electrical, plumbing, mechanical codes, energy code, fire code, the green building standards code, historical building code, existing building code, reference standards code, administrative code, and all other applicable state laws and standards. Item D, the program requires that the PSCP stamp and sign all pages of the construction documents and supporting materials. This means that multiple design professionals cannot be, quote, in responsible charge of different parts of the project, as is the industry standard. The PSCP must accept responsibility for all components of the project. On larger projects that include architectural, structural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, civil, energy, disabled access, etc. Item E, in addition to the California codes, the Oxnard City Code has additional regulations applicable to a construction project that must be adhered to. Refer to the Oxnard City Code Chapter 14 for beach construction, Chapter 18 for floodplain management, and Chapter 15 for subdivisions, in addition to the other requirements of the Oxnard City Code. Item F, as mentioned previously, it's critical that the self-certification aspect of the program be taken seriously, and that plans submitted into the program are verified by the applicant to be 100% compliant to all applicable codes and standards. It's strongly recommended that the PSCP consult with a third party for code compliance peer review before submitting a project. That's a recommendation, that's not a requirement. Additionally, it is strongly recommended that a third party CASP, disabled access specialist, be engaged to peer review the project plans and supporting documentation prior to submittal. Generally, disabled access compliance is one of the most frequent sources of plan check corrections for projects submitted through the normal plan check process. Item G, in addition to the traditional plan check process, plan check corrections are communicated to the applicant, in the traditional plan check process. Plan check corrections are communicated to the applicant, plans are corrected and resubmitted, and this process repeats typically 2 or 3 cycles until all of the plan check corrections have been addressed. In the Measure F Permit Simplicity program, that plan check process will not occur except through an after-the-fact audit process. This is after the permit has been issued. To facilitate the initial submittal process, the following plan review information is offered. First, in commercial projects and to some extent multifamily projects, the most prevalent code corrections have to do with disabled access compliance. In some cases, disabled access plan check review occupies 40% to 50% of the total plan check time. Disabled access compliance in California has very little room for interpretation in terms of compliance with the letter of the code. Please dedicate ample time to address the disabled access in your designs, both in the early preliminary design stage and in the construction drawing phase. Again, as stated before, it's strongly recommended that the applicants to this program enlist a third-party CASP certified consultant to ensure disabled access compliance. Number 2, many commercial and multifamily projects are submitted with fundamental fire and life safety code compliance issues. Please ensure a thorough review of these items have taken place prior to submittal, including but not limited to accounting for the type of construction, the location on the property, and the type of fire sprinkler system, and verifying the allowed area and height of a proposed building. Checking how the proximity between buildings and property lines can determine certain fire protective construction requirements, i.e. the fire separation distance. Detailing and appropriate callouts need to be provided for every penetration of vertical and horizontal fire-rated construction in compliance to Chapter 7 of the Building Code, California Building Code. And the type of protection required is dependent on both the type of surface being penetrated and the type of object that is penetrating the fire-rated construction. An exiting analysis should be part of the plan that should check travel distance, common path of egress travel, and fire-rated construction requirements as per Chapters 7 and 10 of the California Building Code. Assembly uses and hazardous material occupancies require special consideration and diligence. Item 3, the City of Oxnard requires fire sprinklers for all structures and also requires that fire sprinklers be retrofitted into existing buildings for certain types of occupancy changes and large renovations. Please refer to Oxnard City Code Chapter 14 for additional information. Item 4, lack of plan coordination is a frequent cause of plan check corrections. It is critical that all components of a project be coordinated and that multiple components are not assembled without a coordination review immediately prior to submitting them into the program. Some of the most common coordination discrepancies include water meter sizes, not being coordinated between plumbing, civil, and landscaping plans, energy code compliance calculations not matching the mechanical and/or architectural plans, and changes during the project design phase not being picked up by all design disciplines. Item 5, the energy code is typically the most significantly updated component of the California Building Standards Code each code cycle. Please ensure that the energy code compliance method and/or software used is the latest code version. Item 6, multifamily residential can be some of the most code complex type of projects. Disabled access requirements for multifamily housing can be particularly confusing, especially if any public funding source is being used. Additionally, exiting, fire protective construction, and penetration fire stopping issues are generally more complex and require adequate consideration in the design phase of the project. Item 7, single-family residential projects utilize the California Residential Code. Please see the amendments to this code in Oxnard City Code Chapter 14, particularly for seismic and wind loading under conventional framing prescriptive methods. Item 8, accessory dwelling units frequently have plan check corrections relating to the dwelling unit separation between units for attached ADUs. Please also review the Building and Engineering Division website for a useful checklist that must be completed prior to submitting an ADU project. Many common code deficiencies for ADU submittals are covered by that checklist. Number 9, one of the primary purposes for the construction plans is to provide the project inspectors with a clear understanding of the intended design. Clear details, schedules, notes, etc. are critical. Item H, back-checking your own work is difficult at best due to the level of familiarity with the project the designer will have developed throughout the design process. It's strongly recommended to have a third party with a high degree of code competency review the project plans and all supporting documentation prior to submittal to the program. Again, it is emphasized that projects submitted into the program with code deficiencies or that are otherwise not in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations will incur project delays once these are discovered after the permit has been issued. Chapter 4, a review of other Oxnard plan submittal options. Again, Measure F, also known as Permit Simplicity, is an optional submittal process. There are other methods of submitting projects through the city of Oxnard as described below. Item A, first, the traditional plan check method. This method, the traditional plan check, is available for all applicants and all projects. The requirements for Measure F program for certification, insurance, structural peer review, auditing, and the other forms and documents required by the Measure F program are not applicable to traditional plan check projects. Additionally, multiple consultants can collaborate on a single project without having a single professional stamp and sign all sheets of the project plans and supporting documents. For example, through the traditional plan check process, a licensed architect will not have to stamp and sign the plan sheets created by the structural engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and energy consultant. Those respective consultants under the traditional plan check process would stamp and sign for their own work as allowed by state law. This traditional method may also be better suited for smaller projects that historically have not required a state license or certified professional in order to prepare the plans, such as for small room additions, etc. Item B, the second program that's available is called the Small Business Assistance Program. This program has been in effect for over 20 years. It's very, very popular. It's tailored towards commercial projects, specifically commercial tenant improvements. Many times businesses need to relocate, move, expand, or make alterations. This program is designed specifically to facilitate that effort. These meetings for this program are scheduled once per week by appointment. In that appointment, a plan check is conducted by all departments and divisions required for that project during an interactive 1-hour meeting. So by using the Small Business Assistance Program, if your project qualifies, you can have a plan check meeting scheduled 1 or 2 weeks out. That meeting, in that 1-hour meeting, you will have either an approval or all the plan check corrections explained to you, and you can reschedule. If you have corrections, you can reschedule back through that process to wrap up and get your permit. A very efficient process. Chapter 5, some additional details and updates per item A, per Oxnard City Code 26-34E, the permit issued pursuant to Measure F, also known as Permit Simplicity, will be stamped with the following language: Permit Simplicity Certified Project. Additionally, language will be printed or stamped on the permit card to the effect of, this project has not been reviewed by the City of Oxnard building official for compliance with the California Building Standards codes. This permit is considered provisional until the audit of this project has been completed. Item B, any work conducted under a provisional permit is at risk and may be subject to removal or reconstruction if code deficiencies are discovered during the audit or through field inspections. Item C, field inspections of a provisional permit will be provided on an at-risk basis and will not be signed off as, quote, approved by the building inspector until the audited plans have been approved by the building official. Item D, the structural peer reviewer must furnish a certificate of approval and stamp each sheet they have reviewed. That means 2 complete sets of plans, as well as the cover sheet of the structural calculation package. This stamp should indicate that the structural peer reviewer has reviewed these pages or documents, and this is not intended to be their professional engineering stamp or seal, meaning they are not taking professional responsibility for it. They are providing a peer review only. This concludes the Measure F Permit Simplicity Training Guide. Additional training may be required either in person or online prior to taking the final exam to confirm the training has been achieved. A final exam will be administered, and after passing, a certificate and registration number will be provided to each Permit Simplicity certified professional. If you have any additional questions regarding the Permit Simplicity / Measure F program, please contact the program administrator at measuref@oxnard.org.